Good morning, everybody. As we go to the chitas of today, today is Friday. It's the sixth reading in the portion of Bahar and Bechukotai. We are holding on chapter 27, verse number 1. V'dabar Hashem Moshe, and God spoke to Moshe Lamer, saying, Dabar b'nei Yisrael, speak to the Jewish people. Amarta aleim, and tell them, Ish kiyaf li neder. And a man expresses a vow, be'ekecha. He makes a vow pledging the value of nafshis lavai, the value of lives to the Lord. She said, what does that mean? First of all, kiafli means a verbal expression. Be'ekecha nafshis, to give the valuation of his life, saying, I take upon myself to donate to the temple the value of my nefesh, nafshis, organ, such as the head or the liver. So I give my body. I give him the value of my body. So the value of a male shall be from 20 to 60. His value shall be 50 shekel. Shall be 50 shekel. Kesef, 50 silver shekel. Shekel HaKodesh in the holy shekel. And Rashi says the value stated here is not an expression of monetary value, is not an expression of monetary value, usual market value of a person sold as a slave, or rather he has a high market value or low one. This is a value fixed from him in the passage. Point his age. Finish. This is what's called the Gzeres HaKosov. That means even though he might have a greater value in the market, so to say, doesn't make a difference. The Torah gives a value to everybody, whether they are extremely valuable to the marketplace or they're no value. It doesn't make a difference. The Torah gives this value. It's called the Gzeres HaKosov. Erkecha, the latter letter of the word chav, is not the second person pronounced, but you would rather a double of the preceding letter chav. Therefore, the word erech is really the word erech, the value. Erech, your value. In the keva, if she is a woman from 20 to 60, it's 50 shekel, 30 shekel. If it's from 5 years old, until 20 shekel. The value of a male is 20 shekel. On the keva, it's a shekel. To a woman's 10 shekel she has to give. Now, that one who's vowing is a minor, because a minor words is no validity. Rather, the verse is speaking about an adult who says, I take on myself to donate to the Holy Temple the value of my 5-year-old, for example. That's what we're talking about. From 1 month until 5 years, for a male, it's 5. And for a woman, a girl, it's 3. So we went from the Chodesh till 60. Now the verse tells us, from 60, Umayla, 60 and above, if he's a male, he drops down from 50 to 15 shekel. But in the keva, asar shekalim. And for a female, she drops. So she has a less of a drop. A male drops from 50 to 15. A woman drops from 30 to 10. So Rashi says, that's what Rashi says. When the people reach vulnerable age, a woman's value becomes closer to the man. This is why a man decreases in value in his old age. Beyond a third of his value, who gets 60, he loses a third of the value. As an adult, maybe 50 shekel to 15, while a woman in her old age decreases to only 1/3 of her value, named from 30 to 10. People say, an old man in the house is a breach in the house.
I protest.
It's there in the house. While an old woman in the house is a hidden treasure in the house. A Bubba in the house is a Machaya. A Zayd in the house. Get him out of the house. Verse 8. Oh, you motherfucker.
Have you been speaking to my wife?
If he's too poor to pay his amount, so that means that he doesn't have he doesn't have the money. He said, "I'll give you the value," and he doesn't have 15 shekel. He doesn't have 50 shekel. Then he comes to the kohen, and the kohen says, "Okay, what can you give? What can you give? Whatever you can give, you'll give. Whatever the guy can give, he give." Now she says, if he cannot afford to pay the fixed valuation, then one making a vow would stand up, and one whose value he pledged before the kohen, who will then evaluate him if how much one pledges the valuation can afford. As she said, the kohen shall estimate the valuation with reference to how much the one who's vowing owns, leaving him in basic life necessities, namely a bed, a bolster, a pillow, tool of trade. And if he has a donkey driver, the kohen must make the valuation. He leaves him a donkey. So the kohen will evaluate exactly what he is capable of giving. Okay, that's the law of one's personal valuation. Verse number 9. If an animal whose type is fit to be brought as an offering to the Lord, whatever part of a person donates to the Lord shall be holy. What does that mean? If a person says, Rashi says, the meaning is if a person says the leg of this animal shall be a burnt offering. It really doesn't work that way because you got to give the whole animal. But whatever, the guy said, I give me the leg to the Beis Hamikdash. His words have validity. So now his words become a reality. And how is the vow expedited? The entire animal except for its legs should be sold to one who needs a burnt offering. And the money received for the sale, which excludes the value of that limb, becomes non-consecrated. So let's say he said the value of the foot should be for the sack. He said, I'm giving the foot to the sacrifice. So you take the entire, now the whole animal becomes holy. But he didn't bring the animal, he only wants the foot. So now you sell the animal to somebody who needs to bring the sacrifice. He buys the animal for $100. And he said, evaluate how much is the foot worth of $10. So the $10 needs to be given to the Beis Hamikdash. And the other $90 he keep for himself. And that's the way they did it. Most important thing is, verse number 10, he shall not exchange it. He's not a substitute, whatever, to good or bad. It means he's not to say, you know what? Okay, you know what? Instead of giving this out, I'll give another animal. Can't do that. Once you consecrated an animal, it belongs to the Beis Hamikdash. And therefore, if he does do, he says, you know what? I'm going to exchange. But then both of them become holy. So you better not do that, because now both animals are going to become holy. So you cannot do that. Cannot exchange. The animal that you consecrated that needs to be brought to the Beis Hamikdash. But on an unblemished animal in place of a blemished animal. Let's say you consecrated a blemished animal. You say, oh, I'll change the blemished animal to a non-blemished animal. Can't do that. Can't self-facilitate. There's different laws. What happens if I consecrated a blemished animal? Now I can't bring it to the Beis Hamikdash. I have to do other things with it. But once I consecrate an animal, the animal's holy, whether it's blemished or unblemished. How much more so should he receive lashes if he replaces a good unblemished animal with another good one, or he replaced a bad blemished animal with another bad one? The stuff is if you say from bad to good, so you good to good or bad to bad. You're not allowed to do that. You cannot change an animal once you consecrate. If it's any unclean animal, consecrated a dog. So now you can't bring the dog to the Beis Hamikdash. You can't be bringing the dog to the Beis Hamikdash to begin with. And this type shall not be brought an offering to God. They shall stand up before the kohen. as she says, the case of an unclean animal is stated later. So what is the unclean animal meant here? Oh, and so really, okay, take back what I said. So we have a separate verse, verse 27, when the Torah talks about an unclean animal also again. So what are the two expressions? Text of speaking about a blemished animal, which is unclean, unfit for sight. We're talking not here about a non-kosher animal. Take it back. Actually, we're talking here about an animal which is blemished, like consecrated, a blemished animal. Scriptures stating that an unblemished, consecrated animal cannot leave their holy statues and enter into a mundane statue to redemption, unless they become blemished. This we'll learn all in the Masechta, in the different laws of which animals want to become blemished, can become unconsecrated, which animals doesn't work that way. These are many laws in Masechta Truma. The Kohen will evaluate whether it's good or bad. According to the valuation of the Kohen, so shall be. Actually, this for anyone else but the owner who wishes to purchase it from the possession of the temple. Now it becomes the Kohen's, right? Whatever. If I consecrated an animal or any part of the animal, because you have to get to the Beis Hamikdash. Now the Kohen can sell it, right? What are you going to do with animals? The Kohen, the Beis Hamikdash was not used for stable. So it was used to either bring a sacrifice or to sell it. They would sell it and use the money for the Beis Hamikdash. But if he redeems it, if the same person redeems it, then he adds a fifth. I said the owner himself redeems the animal. If he comes to the Beis Hamikdash to buy back his animal, this Torah is more stringent with the owner, obligating to add a fifth of the value regarding the fifth. Likewise, the case of one who consecrated his house and he comes and buys it back, he's going to have to add a fifth. Likewise, the case of one who consecrated his field, and likewise in the case of redemption of second tithing. In these cases, the owner must add a fifth to the value, but no one else who redeems it has to add a fifth. If somebody else comes and buys the animal because they were blemished animals, and they came to the temple to buy the animals, the temple wanted to get rid of these animals, have no value to the temple. The only value was the money. So a regular person bought the animal and took the animal. If the owner came and bought the animal, he had to add a fifth. The Yishki Yakish is basic. Kedush Hashem. Again, a man consecrates it because he says, my house is the temple. Well, what does the Beis Hamikdash need? Your house. Kedush Hashem. The Kohen Gadol will evaluate between what's good and what's bad. Whatever the Kohen evaluates, so shall it remain. Verse 15. The Amakti is basic. And therefore, if a person himself, the one who consecrated, comes to redeem his house, gave his house to the temple. Now the temple is making an auction, telling people come and buy this house. And the owner himself says, "Okay, I'm going to come buy my house back." The Torah, it's the Exeris HaKosim. The Torah said the Yosef Hashmish he has to add a fifth. So whatever the Beis Hamikdash is selling the house for, this guy needs to add a fifth to buy back his own house. And then the house becomes his. And that completes the laws of evaluation of consecrated, whether it's a human being, your house, your field, etc. Now, we now go to the Tanya of the day. We are holding chapter 50. We are coming closer to the end of the Tanya, the first book of Tanya. We've been doing already a half a year together, and we are holding the chapter 50 of Tanya. There's 53 chapters in Tanya. So this chapter warrants a brief introduction. The previous chapter, Tanya, had discussed the various levels and forms of love of God, each of which can inspire one to study Torah and observe mitzvahs with increased enthusiasm. That's what we're trying to accomplish. You know, he should have enthusiasm. He should love God. He should do Torah mitzvahs out of love of God. In all these levels, the love consists of yearning to become joined with God. It's all about the relationship with God. Or else a desire that the divine be revealed within one's soul. For this reason, The love of God arouses one directly to study Torah and to observe commandments because I want a relationship. But through these, a Jew becomes united and joined with God. This creates this relationship, and godliness becomes revealed in the soul. It goes both ways. I connect myself to God, and God reveals himself in me. Chapter 50, now we go to chapter 50, we'll discuss the different forms of love. Rather than a yearning to become joined with God, it's a thirst and a craving for divine to the point of Lois HaNefesh, like a fatal attraction. I have a love of God that I want to expire, so to speak. That's close to Lois HaNefesh. An utter rapture that consumes the soul until it's on the verge of expiring to sheer godliness. That's Lois HaNefesh. Samalacha nafshi. My soul is thirst for you. The aim of this love, then, is that the soul tear away itself from the body. And from whatever ties the body and to expire into godliness, which is called the chassidus, a rotzui. He has a rotzui, he has a yearning and a desire to go. That's every soul. We call the soul. The soul is called a flame of God, because it has a desire to leave. Such a love, God cannot prompt one directly to observe Torah mitzvahs. That's the problem with this love. This love is to leave the world, not to be in the world. It's the opposite. So this person doesn't want to do Torah mitzvahs. He wants to become a part of God. It's about his love of God. For this is possible only when the soul is attached to the body. The soul wants to leave the body. Nevertheless, the ultimate aim of every love of God is to serve him through fulfilling his will, the Torah mitzvahs. So as a result of the inspiration of this love, in the case of Lois HaNefesh, it's not the state of love in itself which arouses one to serve God through Torah mitzvahs. It's rather through a contrary inclination aroused within the soul. And that's the shuv. That's the return. So there's the concept of the rotzei. The soul has a rotzei to become part of God. But the Eibush to put an automatic spring, so to say, within the soul. That the soul itself realizes that in this love of becoming one with God, it needs to have a shuv. It needs to have a return. There needs to be a return, an exit plan. And there's always an exit plan in this Ava. Because the soul realizes also that his true love of God is to do what God wants. So even though he has an unbelievable love of God, which he wants to go out of himself, meaning he wants to leave this physical reality, but then he realizes as he goes out, he realizes that that's not the ultimate purpose. The ultimate purpose is that I love God to do what he wants. And therefore, it's not about me, it's about God. And the Eibush to put in this love, which is seemingly a love of going out of oneself, to go back to oneself. And that's the Ratzah in the Shur, the forward and backward kind of an idea. It is rather, so it's a contrary. There's a Ratzah, there's the opposite almost. Because a Ratzah is to go and a Shuv is to return. The two opposites. Because the Ratzah wants to continue to go, and the Shuv is to come back, to return. So these are two contrary inclinations aroused within the soul. So the soul itself realizes that it's not about it. It's not about the Ratzah. It's not only about the Ratzah. I have a great Ratzah. I have a great desire to become part of godliness. But what's really the truth in that desire? The truth in that desire is to do what God wants. That's why I have a desire to become part of godliness. So even though in the desire, seemingly there's no concept of mitzvahs, of doing the physical work, but ultimately there is. Because he realizes that what is the true concept of the desire is to do what God wants. And that's why the soul itself has this exit, so to say, plan. He has this return, the spring that brings him back to what his true purpose is to elevate the world. And that only can be done through a physical mitzvah. So that's during the very sensation of the burning love for God, when there's a soul in a stage of surging ahead towards it and aspiring into godliness. At that very moment, the soul realizes that aspiring is not the ultimate divine intent. So that's the expression about parchat achai, forced to live. Abisha says you're forced to live. Even though you want to expire, forced to live. On the contrary, its intent is that the soul be remaining clothed in the body, staying there to continue the task of drawing godliness ever downward and revealing it into finite world. So the soul that wants to expire realizes it's not all about that. It's also about bringing God to the world. And if I expire, then I won't be able to accomplish the journey of God in the world. This realization brings one to be subservient one's own feeling. Instead of enjoying the rapturous sensation of surging forward and aspiring into God, as one comes to experience an opposite a sensation of returning, to becoming clothed in the body for the sake of the fulfillment of the divine intent by observing Torah mitzvahs. So that's the beauty of this neshama. The beauty of this neshama is that it has self-understood. The soul has a yearning for God, and it would rather leave the situation. It would rather go to a higher place and get itself away from anything physical, and even mitzvahs and Torah, because he wants to become part of God. And then the soul automatically, it's built into the system that the soul says, wait a second, all this desire is my desire. I have an unbelievable desire. What is God's desire? I'm desiring God. Right? I'm not desiring myself. I'm desiring God. So if I desire God, what is God's desire? God's desire is I should be in this world. So then I need to break myself. I need to break my own desire. And I got to go back. I got to go back to the world. I got to go back because I got to fulfill God's desire. So all forms and levels of love of God discussed in chapter 50 are grouped under the term kesef, literally means silver, which Tanya derives etymologically from the same root, meaning desire. Kesef comes under the category of chesed, kindness. And Tikkun HaZohar is called the right hand of the divine stature. So it's all about chesed, my desire. Kabbalah, the 10 spheres are divided into 3 groups, like vertical lines, right, left, and center. Right, that's the spheres are divided into 3 groups, right, left, and center. The right line is known as chesed. It consists of chachma, chesed, and netzach. The left line, known as the gevura, consists of bina, gevura, and hayt. As chesed is outgrowth of chachma, which begins its line, chachma. And gevura is the product of bina, which begins its line. The other spheres are situated in the center line, which is not concerned us here. We're talking about chesed and gevura right now. The various kinds of love of God discussed here all come under the category of chesed. It's my expansion, my love of God, my expression of chesed to the Eibishter. And they all go under the concept of kesef. Therefore, the outgrowth of chachma, my chachma. The love of God in the Klois HaNefesh discussed in this chapter come to the category of gevura. And gevura is gold, zav. And that's a higher level. And that comes from bina. So it comes from the opposite. That's why it comes from Gevura, because ultimately it's much more refined. It's gold. It comes through my refinement, my wanting to become part of holiness, and ultimately my self-constraint to still continue in this world. So you have Ava that comes from Chesed, that comes through my service of God, through the avodah of the my avodah in the world. But then I have a much deeper Ava, and that's the Ava that comes from Gevura, and that is the concept of Kolois HaNefesh. Let's see how the Alter Rebbe explains it. Says it in time. Deep concept, and let's see if we can acquire it. All forms and levels of love mentioned above derive from the right side. And Mesiti Diyamina comes from the right side, from the level of Kohen. Kohen Ish Chesed. The man, Kohen, the right side is the Kohen. He's the one who's Chesed. And the Levi is Gevura, service. So you have the concept of the right side. Right? The Chesed is the right, Gevura is the left, and the middle is Tiferes, is Rachamim. But we're talking about these two sides. I consider either the service of the Kohen, which is the concept of serving God through purity, so to say, through Chesed. That's why Aaron HaKohen was Oyev Shalom V'Roidev, was the ultimate concept of Chesed in the world, the ultimate aspect of kindness. Kohen Ish Chesed, meaning this form of serving God is on the category of Chesed. V'nikra Kesef HaKochet. And Kabbalah is called the Kesef, which is the silver of the holy of the Beis Hamikdash. The Lashon Nichsa, why is it silver? Because silver has the same word as Nichsef Nichsaf LeBeis Avicha. You sorely long for your father's home. But the word longing is etymologically related to the word Kesef. So all forms of this levels of love of God thus expresses the desire and the longing of God, Jew, to become joined with God. The word for your father's home is in quoted verse refers to the level of Chachma, which is called Abba. Nichs lebeis avicha, as he explained, the concept of Chachma, the right side. So the right side is Chachma, Abba, through the father. This is also a connection to Kesed, Hakochet. When the Zohar, Chachma is called Kodesh. So this is the longing of holiness. As explained in the introduction of this chapter, all these forms of love come in the category of Chesed, which is outgrowth of Chachma, where they directly inspire one to observe Torah mitzvahs which derive from divine wisdom. So it's all the concept of one reaching out more in Chachma and having more a desire to connect to Chachma, which ultimately, if I want to have a desire to connect to wisdom, I want a desire to connect to God. Yes, Bechinas Abba, but we have a greater Abba. Eila Kulana, which goes above this Abba. Kemailas Azav ala Kesef. The example of the superiority of gold over Kesef, over silver. So the superiority substitutes not in degree, not in degree or intensity, but rather in quality and character. This is not just a quantitative superiority in gold. Gold is more expensive. Analogy is worth more than silver. A small quantity of it fetching a higher price than a large quantity of silver. The superiority of gold lies in the fact that its most refined type of gold possesses captain luster. It's the quality of gold. Gold is a much more quality product than silver. And therefore it has a certain kind of luster and glister in the eyes of the beholder. These are all ultimately seen in a physical way, but everything that's in a physical way is in a spiritual way. All types of gold are related to this type. That's why we specifically want a gold ring at a marriage, made out of gold. On the other hand, does not, so the silver does not possess these qualities. So it's much more a quality product. Not only is it a quantity, it's worth more, it's a quality product. Same distinction. That's why the Beis Hamikdash was a majority of gold. In some aspects, the Beis Hamikdash was pure gold with one piece of gold, like the menorah was miksha achas of one gold. But in general, the Beis Hamikdash was gold. Besides the sockets were silver and some of the utensils. But in general, it was gold. Same distinction exists between the form of love described in this chapter, which has the characteristics of thirst and rapture to expire into godliness, and the other form of love, which does not have this quality. So the quality of gold is not just a desire to godliness. It's a total going out of oneself. It's a total wanting to become part of godliness, become part of the Ava Kirish Beyesh. This is what the Alter Rebbe always mentions, this Ava Kirish Beyesh, like the glowing of coals fire, a burning love, unlike the aforementioned form of love, which are essential like water, for the soul is drawn by a yearning towards God, like water which flows and attaches to a certain direction. Hence the wording of the prayer for rain in Shemina Atzeres, remember our Father who drawn after you like water. So the first chesed is like water. That's why water is chesed. This love is, on the other hand, a total different quality, like the glowing coals of fire. This derives from the level of higher gevuras, severity of the higher bina. It comes from bina. The bina ilah, not the higher level of bina. In other words, the source of this love is from the level of gevura, which is the left column. The hainu, what is that meaning? That through bina, through arousal that comes through meditation on the greatness of God, the kulaka make that everything is nothing. And therefore, why would I want anything? What do I need this whole world? Why would I want to have any attachment to God even through this world? I have an attachment. I want attachment to God. I want attachment to God above this world. Why? Because everything in this world is nothing. So what do I need anything? Even the mitzvahs, even everything is nothing to God. So what do I need in this world? Now you understand what the two sons of Aaron wanted in Kabbalah. He said, why do we need this world? Why do we need the whole concept of the service in the Beis Hamikdash? We want God. We want to become part of God. Why do we need this whole physical trappings? The slide is now nefesh liyakat tferes gula. The soul becomes inflamed. This is the Gemara says about instances of practice this is a dangerous, might be a little dangerous kind of an ava. Therefore, you have to always make sure you have the exit always available, and always there. The back, the coming back, always needs to be available. If not, chas v'shalom, a person could expire. The slide to start never yakat tveres gedulas to the stalig and become the malka. Soul becomes inflamed because that's really what the soul wants. The soul, in its true essence, wants this. Because the soul's a part of God. So the soul wants this, and that's why the soul's compared to fire. That's how we started the whole Tanya. That the soul of man is like the candle of God. The soul is a fire. We compare the soul to a fire. Because that's the true wanting and the desire of the soul to leave. Why? Not because he says, I want God. I want godliness. And anything that I do in the world is wonderful, but it's ultimately in a physical trapping. I want to leave the physical trap. I want to gaze upon the glory of the King. This is the content of this love. Like a glowing, fearing toll, a mighty flame, which surges upward. He just went to Lag Baimer. The fire surges upwards. Not a love which is drawn towards some object, but one which ascends the burning fire to Klois and Nefesh. I want to become part of God. And I want to become so part of God. I want to part from this wick. But I ate him from the wood. But I'm stuck in it. I want to go above. Same way the soul seeks to tear away part from the body, which compared to the wick and to the wood, which in relation to the fire, the light of the soul. I'm no interest in anything. My interest is God. I know Tag Buddhist, I Tag Vedas, you say the H. This is the result of preeminence of the element of fire. And the king is godly fire. The benefic of the kiss, which is in his godly soul. So unlike the forms of love, which rise from the elements of water in divine soul, which is the wisdom of the divine soul. This part of soul says, no, I want to go far above myself. I want to really go, every chachma that I have is connected to this world. I want to go above this world. I want to connect to God. The Alter Rebbe used to say, I don't want you Gan Eden, I want you Elam Haz, I want you. I want you. From this, the soul comes to thirst. That's why David HaMelech said, my soul thirsts you. Because of the physical domain, one becomes thirsty when the element of fire preeminence. So too the spiritual domain too, the transcendency of the divine soul element of fire creates a thirst within the soul. The soul says, this is so wonderful, but it's not what I really want, God. I'm thirsty for godliness. And this reaches the love sickness. Called love sickness. As for shalom, a person gets sick. The soul is sick for the love of God, just as an unquenched physical thirst brings a state of sickness. Soul can come to. Soul, if a soul is allowed to reach this concept, it can virtually be expiring of the soul. Meshikasuv, as the verse says, "Kam kosa nafshi," my soul expires. Not for the consequent contrary sensation of routine and restraining oneself, as we're going to say further, the soul would literally expire. So if God would not put in the soul the exit, the return, the spring backwards, the soul would expire. Your soul, my soul wants that. My soul has a yearning for it. My soul has a thirst for that as he's in my body. And my soul says that even though it's wonderful you're doing all Torah mitzvahs, I want God. I want God. I want to leave this body. I want to get out of here. I want to become part of godliness because that's who I am. That's my thirst. You're thirsty for water. And I'm thirsty for godliness. You're thirsty for water when you don't have water. I'm thirsty for water as long as I'm in your body. I'll always be thirsty for water. I'll always be thirsty for godliness. And that's Levium. That is the shadish of Levium. Service. Service. Behanim is chesed. Levium is service. Gevura. In Mekan Yotza Sherish Levium. From here, the level of the higher Gevuras of the higher Bina is derived the source of the divine service of the Levium in this world. What their purpose in this world is the kava gevura, aspect of service to God. In a way, they're higher than Kahanim, the gold. And therefore, in the Zohar, which is the controversial Zohar, the Zohar says that ultimately Levim, when Mashiach comes, will become Kahanim. What's going to happen ultimately, we'll have to wait when Mashiach comes. The loss of Yisrael, he Kahanim. Alter Rebbe puts this in brackets because this is not according to the simple way it's going to be. But the Zohar says so. Unlike now that the Levites are secondary to them, it's written, they shall accompany them, serve you. Levim will come Kahanim. As Arizal writes on the verses, are Kahanim Halavim. So what means the verse in the Kahanim and the Levim? The Levim shall achshav, the Levim today will be the Kahanim of the future. Because in essence, the Levim come from a higher place than the Kahanim. And the Mitzvah Mashiach, when Mashiach will come, and then, again, that's why ultimately why also Hillel today, the Allah is like Hillel. That's said. And then says when Mashiach comes, the Allah will be like Shammai, Gevurah. Because even though this world now needs chesed, but ultimately Mashiach comes, that the truth will be revealed, it will show that actually Gevurah is chesed. And that's why the Allah will be like Beishamai. And that's why over here the Zohar says that the Levim will become Kahanim. Who will be Levim? That's the question. Some say it means that the Kahanim will come Levim. Some say it's the firstborns will come Levim. So it's not clear. We'll have to wait for Mashiach to come to know what even the meaning of the Zohar and the Arizal, what's the true meaning in it. But ultimately, we're talking philosophical right now, not in the actual or practical halacha, but in the concept of the spiritual world, ultimately, you have these two pillars. The pillar of chesed and the pillar of service. Therefore, what was the avodah of the Levim in the Beis Hamikdash? That's why the avodah of the Levim was to raise their verse in melody and thanksgiving. Yeshida b'zimra b'nigim v'ni'ima, with song and music, tuneful and harmony. Music characteristic combines various of even opposite modes, some serious stemming from Gevurah, and others happy stemming from Chesed. So the Levim had the capability through their songs, the Levim B'Shiram, that they brought the Yidden high and on a low. They elevated them. Song as the capability of picking you up and then bringing you down, picking you up and bringing you down. And that's the power of music. The music progressed in a manner of advance and retreat, running and returning. This echoed their former service of God, the headlong advance towards Kalois HaNefesh, and restrained retreat and return from that point. That's why the Levim elevated the sacrifice. You couldn't do a sacrifice that makes a meat without the Shira Salabim, because it elevated the animal. It elevated everybody who was there in the Beis Hamikdash. Brought down that when you were in the Beis Hamikdash and you heard the Levim, the music, and the Shira, you were Pashat you were in a different world. You were brought up to a different world. And the song brought the Yid up to a level. He felt like he was in a different reality. But the Levim had the capability to then change the song and bring them back down to a real physical reality. So ultimately, that was the avodah of the Levim. The Kohen brought the Jew closer to God. chesed. But he brought him through the animal sacrifices. The Levium brought a Jew close to God, not through a sacrifice, but through song. It's a much more deeper concept. So it really touched their souls. That's why we see even today that song, music, can affect a person. It can bring out happiness in him, it can bring out sadness in him. It can create a concept of true ava. It can create a concept because it's much more deeper. Song is the pen of the heart. Ava aza. This such a nature, intense love, like a flame that flashes out of a buzzer. It mentioned the Gemara, Chagiga. The one translation of a buzzer is a crucible for refining gold, in which the flame flashes forth and then immediately withdraws. The angels are called chayes, run to and for, like an appearance of a buzzer, like a flash of fire, goes in and out. Likewise, the love of God we're discussing in this chapter first experience a rossi, a state in which the soul surges forth as it's about to expire. But then it comes to a shuv, as a return to, as written in Sefer Yetzirah, for your heart runs, return to one. Right? We mentioned this before. If your heart runs, return to one. In other words, when your heart seeks to undergo kolois hanefesh, aspiring into godliness, then return to one. Withhold yourself from the discourse and return in order to bring the revelation of God's oneness to this physical world. At this point, one realizes that the kolois hanefesh is not the divine intent. It's my intent. It's my godly intent. But it's not the divine intent. Again, that was the mistake of the two sons of Aaron. They had this intent. What was their sin? The sin was that's not the divine intent. The divine intent is they should come back. At this point, so therefore the Eibishter planted in the soul. That's it. They sinned because they also had this return, just like anybody else has the return. They didn't use it. They didn't connect to the return. They didn't allow their souls to spring back. At this point, one realized that kolois hanefesh is not the divine intent, but rather the soul remained in the body and observed Torah mitzvahs, thereby revealing one God's unity into the world. And after that, it says, it's really hard for me to explain this concept in writing. Yet every person with a feeling of his heart, who has a perfection of his heart, as intelligence and grasping his subject, by using his faculty of wisdom, and dwells deeply to attach his mind, understanding to God by using his faculty of das, will find the goodness and the light concealed within his intellect, intelligent soul. The full shiuda delay, each person according to his capacity. And therefore the Gemara says, yesh mispol v'yesh mispol. One is affected in one way type of meditation, and one is affected another way. So I cannot really tell you in this writing of how this is going to reflect in your soul. Every person needs to learn, and every person needs to use out his wisdom and to come to this concept within his soul. But by prefacing this meditation by fear of sin, the Asur Merah, doing fear of doing any sin, in order to become utterly removed from evil. Tachlis, self-understood, you cannot reach this level of love if you have sin, if you're cut off from God. So you need to first do Asur Merah, need to work on the Yida. That's why Yida comes before Ava. You need to get rid of my sins. That cut me off that my sin, my transgression interposed between you and God. That's for showing, God forbid. Other whatever one's excitement with love of God takes, one must first be totally removed from evil doing. Whoa. What a Tanya today. What a beautiful Tanya today. The Alter Rebbe is not finished, self-understood, but the tomorrow is Shabbos. So if you want to come tomorrow, we can learn the Tanya together. So I know there's a stand-up Kiddush. So we can learn the Tanya after the Kiddush together and go into the Tanya tomorrow. If not, learn the Tanya by yourself. And we will meet on Sunday, Be'ezat Hashem, to continue the learning of the Tanya. Today is the 21st day of the month, which is chapter 104 and 105. And if you do that, those two chapters, you do the chitas of the day. And I wish you all a wonderful and beautiful Shabbos. And this Shabbos special, Shabbos Chazak. We finished the third book of the Torah, actually the book of Leviticus. And then we start the new book of Bamidbar, Be'ezat Hashem. And I hope to see you all on Sunday morning. We'll continue the chitas of the day at 8 a.m. in the morning. And I wish you all a wonderful